And we went, hey, for everyone who subscribes to How to Be Happy, let's protect 1 square meter of rainforest. And we looked at the B1G one and went, how much would that cost us to do? And we went, okay, would we be willing to pay that much to encourage someone to subscribe to our show? Because by subscribing to our show, they learn about the skills and science of happiness, yada, yada. And I went, yeah, we would be willing to pay that. And so that's just, examples from us. But I've seen coffee shops do this where they go, hey, for every coffee we sell, we donate a day of clean drinking water. I think what brands could learn from positive psychology is do good things, like genuinely do good things and share it and talk about it regularly. And people will want to come on that journey with you.
This is the Level Up Podcast. I'm your host, Martin Sully, a brand strategist, designer, and founder of Snapper Studio. And I'm on a mission to help you gain clarity and confidence in your brand. I'll arm you with bite-sized tips and introduce you to friends of the show who are taking their brand to the next level. Hello, listener. It's great to have your ears today. I'm talking to you from the land of the Awabakal, and I'd like to pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. Declan Edwards isn't your typical happiness guru. He's the founder of BU Happiness College, an award-winning social enterprise that's turning the science of happiness into a practical toolkit for individuals and organisations. With a Bachelor of Health from University of Newcastle and a Master's in Applied Positive Psychology from Central Queensland University, Declan combines academic prowess with a flair for the unconventional. When he's not leading workshops for the United Nations or delivering TEDx talks, you might find him recording comical music videos on a banjo or vehemently avoiding tomatoes. Apparently, they are the snot of the vegetable world.
That is a hill I will die on. You're right. You've done your research well on me. I'm impressed.
I'll tell you the secret afterwards of how I came to this. Declan's approach is as refreshing as it is effective. Is it right that you've, with your sort of reports, that you're getting a 57% increase in happiness?
Yeah. So people who come to BU Happiness College to learn the skills and science of happiness, we measure those skill sets and we measure their happiness levels, and they go up on average 57% in a year.
Yeah, right. Impressive. We also happen to have the same birthday, don't we?
We do, yes.
So every year we both sort of exchange our happy birthday.
A very courteous happy birthday to you too, sir.
So my aim for this episode is to really ask you questions and some new questions and give you the space to kind of unpack some of your knowledge as well.
Cool.
First I want to get into the vegetables and the tomatoes. Was there a traumatic story that's kind of provoked your hatred of tomatoes?
I don't think there's any childhood trauma behind it. I think it's more just an objective fact that tomatoes are disgusting. And I'll fight anyone who says otherwise. I eat sun-dried tomatoes. I eat tomato paste, tomato sauce. It is literally just raw tomatoes, the inside of them. Can't stand the texture. This is the only food aversion that I have.
Okay. How about salsa?
Salsa, yeah, fine. All good. Yeah, chop it all up. That's all fine. But yeah, no, I say it's. I think you alluded to. I believe that raw tomatoes, they're the snot of the food world. Yeah. Only closely followed by oysters. Also not a fan of for the same reason.
Maybe it's a textural thing. Then.
I think so. I'm waiting for all the rage responses that you're going to get to this. The tomato fans who are going to be writing in furiously.
They're going to be cross, aren't they? They're going to if they listen, they're going to this will be literally the last episode they listen to.
I was going to say, please stay with us. I promise I have some insights on the science of happiness to share. I hope that my hatred of tomatoes has not just turned people off entirely.
So you'll have to tell me the year you did it, but you climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. Is that correct?
I did, yeah. That was, I believe, 2018. It was a while ago now.
Yeah.
And set out to go, okay, let's do our first, what we called a expedition happiness. So an overseas trip with a bunch of our members, clients, family members, friends, to go do something difficult that would push us out of our comfort zone and challenge us. And I got the idea because 2 years before that, I'd been invited by one of my coaches and mentors to hike to Everest Base Camp.
Yeah.
And it was a fantastic experience, very challenging, but I learned a lot about myself through that and went, okay, well, that's an experience I want to offer other people. I've already done Everest Base Camp now. Where do we go next? And highest mountain in Africa was on the charts.
Yeah.
And so off we went. And it was, to this day in my life, probably one of the most, I mean, we were just joking before about my hatred of tomatoes is probably not from childhood trauma, but if you want to talk traumatic events, Kilimanjaro was something else for me. Like to this day, it was one of the most challenging, traumatizing, difficult, heartbreaking experiences that I've had.
Oh, wow. What happened?
I mean, altitude sickness is the short answer. Yeah. So I managed to do Everest Base Camp without really any side effects. And then I kind of went in hindsight, I can say I went into Kilimanjaro now a bit cocky and arrogant because of it. Because I was like, oh, I've done Everest Base Camp. This is all fine. Yada, yada. They're completely different beasts. Like Everest Base Camp, you're going through the Himalayas. So you go up and then you sleep lower. So you acclimatize better.
Yep.
Kilimanjaro is a freestanding mountain. So every night you're sleeping higher.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, when we were choosing the route, I was like, oh, let's do, I think it's called the Wrong Guy route. And it was like the one that not many people do because it's harder.
Okay.
And I went, well, let's do that because that's a cooler challenge. Let's get people really out of their comfort zone.
Yeah.
And come summit night, so the day before we're going for summit, we're crossing something called the Saddle. It's like this big exposed area. We'd been hiking for hours at high altitude. We're all exhausted.
Yeah.
And they said, look, the saddle's going to feel really tough because it's all wind exposed. You're going to be getting buffeted by wind. You're cold. You're tired. You just want to sleep. You're going to hate the day.
Yeah.
But once we get to base camp, we're going to eat lunch. We're going to sleep.
Yeah.
You'll sleep 8 hours. And then at midnight, we're all going to wake up and we're going to push for the summit for sunrise. That was the plan. So we do the saddle. We get to base camp. We sit down. We have lunch, and then as we're all getting ready to go to our tents to go to sleep, which we've been craving because we'd already hiked about 8 hours that day, we were wrecked. Our head guide pulls me aside and goes, hey, the weather's not looking great for tonight, and also morale-wise, it's harder to go for summit at night because it's colder, it's darker, energy's low.
Yeah.
If we're going to go for summit, we should do it now.
Yeah.
And I went, you're kidding me. We're all exhausted. We're stuffed.
Yeah.
And he goes, no, the best call is to go now. So we went back to the group, put it to democratic vote.
Yeah.
Said, hey, the recommendation we have is for most of us to have the likelihood of getting up there, we should go now. And that push to summit, none of us made full summit. We made Gilman's Point, which is 5,400 meters, I think, 5,300 meters above sea level. And then you can go around the crater rim to get to the official summit.
Yeah.
It's like another hour and a half. But I was throwing up. I was crawling on fours. I was just crying repeatedly. I remember having a panic attack because I couldn't get my arm into the sleeve of my jacket. Yeah. And one of our members actually, who was at the college at the time, had to like grab me and hold me and be like, hey, I'm here with you. Like, let me guide your arm in.
Yeah.
And then I remember at one point just like lying on the ground and being like, okay, I need to go to sleep. And the guide's going, you can't sleep here. Like if you sleep here, you'll die. And I just remember at the time being like, I kind of don't care anymore. Like it's weird what altitude sickness does to you. Like altitude sickness was just like, I was so ambivalent to my own life. And out of weird timings, you know, we got to Gilman's Point. I said, do we push to full summit? And the guide said, if you push to full summit, I'm not sure you're coming back. Like you need to get off this mountain. You don't realize how bad your altitude sickness is. And so he pushed me down, get back to base camp. I pull into the tent to go to sleep right as the clock ticks over to my birthday. And I'm lying there alone because my wife is still somewhere up the mountain being brought down because I tried to come back with her. I said, no, you need to go down first because you're really sick. Lying there alone on my birthday going, what the hell have I done? Why am I here? And also going, wow, like a few hours ago, I genuinely didn't care if I died.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, like,
I
think.
What do I do with that?
Yeah.
Right?
I think, I mean, my only experiences with altitude and climbing mountains has been going up to Mount Snowdon in the UK, which was, you know, like 1,014 meters. It's not masses.
Yep.
It's 2 or 3 hours of climbing and then that's it. You go back down. It's all fine. Like you don't have an appreciation of altitude sickness.
Yeah, I never thought it would hit me as hard as it did.
Yeah.
And then, something's off. I do that, I think a few days later on the plane flying home, which is weird because the plane takes off and you look out the window and you can see the summit of Kilimanjaro through the clouds. And you're like, that's where I almost died a few days ago. And I got home and again, I think this was a part of the chapter that made it so challenging and traumatizing. By then I'd been building BU Happiness College for about 2 years.
Yeah.
And I got back to find out that we were in a much more jeopardized financial position than I thought we were. There was a falling apart of me and my original co-founder and business partner. And I remember getting back already trying to process the challenge of Kili and what happened on Kilimanjaro. And then finding out we had about a 6-week runway before we were going to run out of money and need to close the business.
Yeah, right.
And I went, okay, let's somehow pull this together. Yeah, I mean, you want to talk difficult chapters. That one is a defining moment, I think, in my life and in my career to go, okay, this kind of tore me apart in a lot of ways, humbled me in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
How do we rebuild from this?
Yeah. I think you almost have to go towards those points of failure sometimes in order to actually learn anything. I mean, it's something I've said to my daughter, who's 5. But those things, if you don't learn from them and keep trying and keep practicing, like you don't improve. I mean, she's been swimming since she was, she's been doing swimming lessons since she was 1. Since she's been doing them pretty much weekly, but she's just got to the point where everything's just clicking together, and she's like happy to just jump in the pool, do a lap, and get out. Everything is safe. But that's been an incredible learning experience from us as parents to see that all happening, and then you go, oh, it literally applies for everything: learning to read, learning to ride a bike, learning. Anything that is mildly tough, just keep doing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cliche for a reason, right? But like we grow outside of our comfort zones. There's truth behind the saying. That's why it's become a cliche. I will say, I think in hindsight, like I think doing hard things is important, but doing it with preparation and safeguards and with good meaning behind it is probably my big lesson from that. I was like, okay, this was difficult just for the ego boost of being difficult. Rather than, doing it in a way that was really considered and intentional and prepared. So now I still do difficult things. I aim to do difficult things in life. I think it's a big part of growth and of happiness is to challenge ourselves. But I now try to do it with a lot more of a sense of intentionality rather than recklessness.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say that's, I've got, obviously I've got more questions, but I don't want to shoehorn this one in there. But to take it back another step, one of the most important things as a designer when you first start is the need to learn to, like the ability to accept feedback. And especially when it's negative feedback or it's constructive feedback. And it's not a personal attack on your skills, but more of a way to improve your work. And then I noticed in there, you've got a framework for feedback. Is that right?
It's not particularly my framework, but I know there's one that we tend to recommend a lot.
The active constructing responding.
Yeah, active constructive responding. Yeah. So it's a great framework from positive psychology. It's more so about how we celebrate and expand and savor in good moments with people in our life. So not so much for like those critical conversations or difficult feedback. That's more where I'd probably recommend things like Radical Candor. I believe it's a book by Kim Scott. So a really good framework about being really clear in our feedback on that. And clear is kind is another saying we use a lot at BU, which we pinched from Brene Brown. But active constructive responding I love for the moments in life when someone comes to you and wants to share something positive, be it like a client or a colleague or a friend or a loved one. Yeah. They come back and they're like, oh, this something good happened at work today or something good happened with this project, I want to tell you. And we can either respond, if you imagine a framework of like 4 quadrants, right? And so on the horizontal axis, I'd say the left side is destructive, the right side is constructive. If we go up and down, the very top is active, the very bottom is passive. A lot of the time, just because life is busy, and I catch myself doing this all the time, we sit in the passive zones. So either passive destructive, which is to kind of shut off the conversation or draw attention away. So they're like, oh, this happened at work. Say, oh, cool. Like, well, this is what happened with my day.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I've robbed the conversation. I've stolen someone's good moment, right? And actually, it detracts from how people feel. It detracts from connection. Or we do passive constructive, which I think is more common because it feels like it's not doing any harm or damage. Which is, oh, that's really good. I'm happy for you. It's all statements. It doesn't expand it. You know what I mean? It doesn't further the conversation or expand someone's celebration.
It's not like tell me what happened.
100%, right? It's lazy communication responding. And again, I've got to catch myself doing that. So that's the passive side, right? We either steal from it and draw attention to us or to something else, right? So you might be like, oh, well, this is what's going on. Yeah, like it's a really good project. I'm like, oh, really cool. Like, hey, quickly, I noticed that we don't have any groceries at the moment. Like, what are we planning on doing for dinner? Complete derail, right? Like that's passively destructive to the celebration. Passive constructive is like nothing really happens. It's just short statements, doesn't expand, but doesn't take away. And then you've got the active side, right, of the spectrum. So active, destructive, I don't think many people intentionally do. I don't think many people would say that they do. It's normally if you're like, if there's maybe some bad relationship dynamics already. So this is where we start pointing out the negatives. So the example I always love to give is someone comes home and goes, hey, really good news. I've been offered a promotion at work. The response from their partner is like, okay, well, is that going to take more hours? How much more, like, do you have the capacity for that at the moment with what's happening with the family? So we're actively destroying someone's joy. We're actively destroying someone's happiness. The one that we should all aim for way more often is active, constructive responding. And it takes effort. That's why it's in the active space, right? Passive is easy, right? And we're all busy. We don't have much time or energy in life. So we need to intentionally practice it. So active constructive is I'm going to, hey, let me connect with you on this celebration and let me expand it with you. So they come home and go, hey, good news, I'm being considered for a promotion at work. Oh, tell me more about that. Like, how'd you find out about it? Like, get curious. Right? How are you feeling about it? Like, do you feel it's something that you want to go for? And they're like, yeah, I do. It's like, yeah, cool. Like, talk to me more about that. Like, we're just trying to get curious and expand. So the way we do it, connect, be present.
Yeah.
Be present with them. And then ask questions. Get curious. Like curiosity is such a beautiful thing for fostering connection.
And you'll find that with kids. It's the one biggest thing that I've probably learned. It's just to give them space sometimes to sit there and go and almost digest the day. Like now that my daughter's at kindy, that has been like, she doesn't want to tell you everything, but gradually you get drip fed over the next 24 hours what actually happened during the day. And you go, as a kid, I know that I had conversations where you'd get home from school and one of your parents would be like, what happened? What did you get up to today? And I'd be like, oh, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. Nothing happened in my whole day. Don't ask me.
What actually inspired you to establish BU Happiness College?
I just said before, I try these days to do hard things with much more consideration and intentionality and a lot less recklessness. I actually wonder now if I would start a social enterprise focusing on the skills and science of happiness. And I don't know if I would. So what inspired me? Recklessness, like a lot of recklessness and a high degree of hope. And I think that's what's carried me to some degree over the last 8 years. How it started was I'd been learning a lot about positive psychology, about coaching, about acceptance and commitment therapy, basically about all these tools and techniques that were shown to help people live happier lives. And I'd been learning it for myself because I'd been on my own journey about working out my sense of self, my own mental health, trying to figure out what happiness meant to me. And the more I learned about that, the more I went, why has this been so hard to learn about? Like, why have I had to go to all these different places, all these different sources, spend all this amount of money to figure out stuff that I kind of wish I learnt in school? And at the time, my fiance at the time, now my wife, we were traveling the US. We were, I think, over there for about 8 weeks, and we were, early 20s, burning through a lot of our savings. And we got back to LA ready to come home, and I went, hey, when we get home, I think I want to quit my job and try something new. And she was like, okay, what do you want to try? And I said, well, I think I can imagine if there was like a college or like a school or a space that taught people the skills to be happier human beings, not just the skills to be good employees. Like so much of our education system is built around teaching you to be good at your job, not teaching you how to be good at life. And so I went, I just wish there was a space where I could have done that instead of spending all this time and money doing it kind of fractionally. And, in hindsight, I kind of joked. I was like, kind of like a happiness college. And to her credit, she didn't say yes straight away. She's like, seems like a big risk. And on the flight on the way home, she's like, okay, well, what are we going to do for money and income in the meantime? And I said, well, that house deposit that we've saved, we can live off that for a little bit. And thankfully, by the time we landed in Sydney, about 12, 14 hours later from LA to Sydney, she went, let's give it a year or two and see what happens. That was a little over 8 years ago, and we've now got members and graduates in 5 countries. And I cannot see myself doing any other work other than teaching the skills and science of happiness and playing my part in making the world a little bit happier. So thankfully, I had a lot of hope and a lot of recklessness when I was younger, and my wife was willing to back that.
I love that story. Do you think that hope, having that little glimmer of hope, kind of reflects on the vision of you going forward and other people kind of seeing it and then going, oh, okay, I get it. I want to sort of join in and sort of align with that?
Yeah, my sense of hope has been re-inspired year on year by the people who've chosen to rally around what we're doing as a social enterprise, be that our members, our graduates, our workplace clients, even just people who follow, our podcast or watch my content and share it around, or send me a message on LinkedIn and say that what I'm sharing is resonating with them. I think I've been able to witness over the last 8 or 9 years of doing this work, people are a lot more willing and ready to talk about the value and importance of happiness and positive mental and emotional well-being now. I think we went through an era, early 2000s, even 2010s, of mental health awareness and talking more about mental health, which is really important. I'm glad we did. I think we're now entering an era of mental health advocacy and action where people are going, okay, cool, like we're talking more about mental health. What do I do with it? Like, how do I actually take care of my own well-being? How do I take care of my happiness? How do I help my loved ones with their mental and emotional well-being? Like, what does that look like on a tangible, practical, day-by-day way? And that wouldn't have been possible had we not gone through the mental health awareness era. But I think we're now in this era of mental health, action and advocacy, which has been a lot more aligned with what we do as a college, right? This more proactive approach to mental and emotional development.
I can see that. I can see, you can kind of get the sense of that feeling as well. It's not hard to see that, people want to be able to use, days like, and I know that we've had chats about Are You Okay Day and use that for action, but it should be action that should be daily.
Yep.
They're things that, just keep ticking over, check-ins with people and, making sure that your friends and family are all well, essentially. Going into the personal branding side of things, did you intentionally try to become the happiness guy? 'Cause I don't know if that's something I've picked up on or whether that's just something that's out there.
Yeah, no. So being known as that happiness guy was a complete accident. It was actually when I changed my name on LinkedIn to that. So everybody looks me up on LinkedIn, it's like Declan, that happiness guy Edwards. And even now, like our TikTok channel is that happiness guy. I'm getting ready to launch a YouTube channel on that happiness guy.
Yeah.
That happened because a couple of years ago, just after the first few rounds of COVID lockdowns, when in-person networking events were starting to pop back up, I started going out to these networking events.
Yeah, right.
And finding that I'd talk to people and introduce myself, and there was a few in a row where people would be like, oh, wait, I know you. You're that happiness guy. Like, you're that guy who talks about happiness and, like, you research happiness and happiness is kind of your jam.
Yeah.
They did not remember my name.
Yeah, right.
The amount of people that I'd meet, I even had people reach out to me who were like, hey, had dinner with a friend and they were telling me all about this happiness guy that their workplace had brought in.
Yeah.
And they were raving about the session and how good it was and how they learned so much and they loved this happiness guy. And I asked them who it was. They could not tell me the name, but I'm pretty sure it must be you because there's not many people who do this kind of work, right? Especially in the local area. Yeah. And so I remember talking to our team at the time and the guy who was in charge of our marketing at the time, he goes, lean in, run with it. Like if people are remembering you as that happiness guy, I mean, there's worse things to be remembered as and known as. So stuff it, let's see what happens. And so on a bit of a whim, I was like, okay, let's update the LinkedIn Declan, that happiness guy. And to this day, the amount of people who'll be like, hey, someone I know just, was at this conference and they were talking about this keynote speaker who was talking all about happiness and the science of happiness and they really liked it.
Yeah.
Was that you by any chance? And I was like, it was actually. Did your friend remember me? And they're like, they remembered you, just not your name. So I don't know if Declan's just not a memorable name, but that happiness guy seems to stick.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, like, it's not, like you said, it's not a bad thing to lean into that. I've been through space myself where, I've gone through the photographer era and kind of tried really hard over the last few years to step away from that entirely, which has involved me doing less and less photography. Yep. Whilst I still love it and I still do it. It definitely, the more you get out and about doing those things and having those discussions or doing the photography or whatever, you're going into, people start building this kind of perception of you as that person and then don't realize there's other layers.
Yeah, well, I will say on that too, like something I've been very mindful of, particularly over the last 12 months, I think, is as much as I'm becoming known as that happiness guy, like I'm a human being first and a happiness researcher second. So I know so much of the content that I put out there, the conversations that I have, even on podcasts like this or even in real life, I'm like, hey, just because I've spent over a decade studying the science of happiness doesn't mean I feel happy every moment of every day. Like, that's not the goal. The goal here is to be able to learn tools to manage our mind and emotions more effectively, to be able to try to savor the good moments when they're here and navigate through the really tough moments a bit more effectively when they're here, because they do come.
Oh, undoubtedly. Yeah, I can see that. It's nice to be able to, like, from my perspective, getting you onto the podcast was more of an opportunity to get to know you a bit better as well. And I don't think that's, it's also always, something I'm sure a lot of people would wish they would be able to do and just say, all right, okay, we all know him from his work, but outside of that, I mean, I know you across LinkedIn as well, and some of your unhinged posts, which always hit. They're always fun to sort of join in the conversation and, step outside of your comfort zone and go, oh, maybe I can think about this in a different way. And I've always wondered, like, where did you get some of the inspiration for those posts, or was it just sitting there mindlessly just thinking about different aspects and stumbling across something? I
think two things. So one is I have a bit of a love of just shit talking. Yeah. Like I'm a bit of a shit talker. Like sometimes I'll just, I love the idea of, actually my wife and I recently purchased a board game. I don't remember the name of it because the name's not even on the board game. It's just, I bought it because the picture of it on the front was so nice. Yeah. But the background of it is like, you're all artists competing for an art prize and you've got to layer these translucent cards on top of each other to make an artwork.
Yeah, okay.
It's a really well-designed board game. It's fantastic.
It sounds amazing.
We added an element to it just for our own fun of like, when you finished making your artwork, you had to present it to everyone else playing the game and you had to describe your inspiration behind it, like the most self-assured, kind of obnoxious artist you could imagine embodying. And the shit talk that comes out of that is hilarious. I think part of me just loves having a bit of a shit talk. So when I got on LinkedIn, I remember for a while, especially when I went from the majority of my work being working with individuals on their happiness skills to helping organizations measure happiness and improve happiness amongst their employee experience, I went, I've got to be more professional now. I've got to be more serious. And I got on LinkedIn and went, okay, time to be serious. And it didn't really work for me. Like one of my top 5 character strengths is humor, which means I now tell people that like science says that means I'm funny. So if you don't laugh at my jokes, like you are fundamentally denying science, and whole different conversation for us to have. So I was like, well, let's just do that. Let's lean in. Let's have a bit of fun. So let's talk some shit on LinkedIn. And it went really well. Yeah. The other thing was I did a short stint working for quite a large organization last year in the corporate setting. It was my first stint in-house because we were talking about me coming as a consultant. We couldn't line that up. I was going to be an advisor. Couldn't line that up. And then I was like, yep, let's go in-house for a 6-month stint. And I think there's just so much absurdity about the normal world of work. There's so much that I think we've just taken as normal and we don't step back and go, but why is it a thing that we have to have all of these systems and processes? Why is it a thing that every email gets marked as critically urgent and important when it's probably not, because we're not actually doing brain surgery in this industry, right? Like, why is it that we all have to work we're arguing about return to work when for the last 2 years, everyone's worked more effectively with flexible working arrangements. So like, I think I was able to see the normal world of corporate work, which is normally showcased so well on LinkedIn, through this kind of absurdist lens of like, this is crazy. Why are we doing things this way? And those have always seemed to go well.
I can see that. It's funny. I posted something recently. I can't even remember what it was for the life of me, but it was something along the lines of an AI sort of reflection. And it wasn't that. I made a 3D model of myself. And then all of a sudden I started getting these, I posted the prompt that I used in my comments. And all of a sudden I was getting people tagging me across LinkedIn just for creating this prompt that other people then started using. And it like the traction that got me was absurd, but I was also like, I mean, I did it for a bit of fun. I definitely wasn't that interested in, getting anything from it. And I'm definitely not an expert in AI. But yeah, it was interesting. It's something we have touched on, obviously, the emotional side of things, but I wanted to sort of swing it back into my lane a little bit and kind of ask you how you think brands could tap into the positive psychology to, I guess, build emotional resonance.
I think there's a real rising hunger amongst consumers these days, which includes me. I buy things, right? Like anyone who wants to buy things. There's a real rising hunger, and there's data and evidence that backs this up, particularly in younger generations, for people wanting to choose to work with brands that are doing net positive in the world and net good in the world. And so I think, we've seen this era of sort of like greenwashing where organizations say they're doing really good things, but are they? How well do you track that? Like, I think what I would love to see brands doing, and actually I'd put a call out to not just large brands, right? I think there's a common mistake in philanthropy in business and social enterprise in business and giving back and being a for-purpose brand. That people go, oh, well, once we're really big and successful, then we'll do that. And I'm like, no. Like, it's the opposite, right? It's if you can find a way to show that you stand for something, that you're giving back and that you're making the world better through what you do, then people will rally to that. And one of the ways I love doing that, I don't know if the listeners have heard of an organization or if you've heard of an organization called B1G1. Yeah. So it's like buy one, give one.
Yeah.
So they're our social enterprise, like charity partner. So basically every time someone does something at BU Happiness College, we create a positive impact somewhere in the world as a result. So as a result, or as an example, someone enrolls at the Happiness College to learn the skills and science of happiness for themselves. We actually fund a week-long retreat and vocational camp in India for underprivileged youth to learn personal and professional development skills, which makes it more likely that they get jobs and they get out of the poverty cycle.
Yeah, cool.
So everyone who comes to the college, we're like, hey, you're doing something good for you, but also you've just funded this week-long program for someone that you will probably never meet. And so I think we could even get better around those giving stories. Like I just had a meeting this week with our team to kind of go, hey, these are our giving stories. How do we talk about them all? How do we share them all? And how do we do them across all lengths of the business, from people enrolling at the college all the way up to people who are into branding and marketing and building businesses, like top of the funnel sort of stuff. So for us, like we've just launched our podcast or relaunched it a couple months ago. And we went, hey, for everyone who subscribes to How to Be Happy, that's protect 1 square meter of rainforest. And we looked at B1G1 and went, how much would that cost us to do? And we went, okay, would we be willing to pay that much to encourage someone to subscribe to our show? Because by subscribing to our show, they learn about the skills and science of happiness, yada, yada. And I went, yeah, we would be willing to pay that. And so that's just, examples from us. But I've seen coffee shops do this where they go, hey, for every coffee we sell, we donate a day of clean drinking water. I think what brands could learn from positive psychology is do good things, like genuinely do good things and share it and talk about it regularly. And people will want to come on that journey with you.
Yeah. And I think it's that once you've then stumbled across that message that you want to use, is actually talking about it. And I think what small brands are really bad at is finding a message, using it once. But you have to use it something like 12 times for it to be able to sit with people. A lot of people will miss it the first 11 times and then they go, oh, you do that. Oh, okay.
As someone who's, a specialist in branding as yourself, like you're going to cringe when you hear this. I had so much resistance for so long to repurposing my content. I thought everything I put out on every platform had to be completely new and original and like off the top of my head. And A, that's exhausting and unsustainable, right? But B, it led to me eventually starting to dilute our message a little bit. Yeah. Whereas I went, hang on, like, what do we stand for? Okay, we fundamentally believe that the more people who learn about the skills and science of happiness, the happier the world becomes. Yeah. That's us at our core. So what's our job to do then? Teach the skills and science of happiness. Yeah. Do that repeatedly. Yeah. And so now, so much easier because I can go, well, we did this post a while ago about this particular skill. People like that. Let's turn that into a video or turn that into a podcast episode. And then we can repeat it. And ironically, to your point, not only is that good for branding, it's also good for learning. Yep. People aren't going to learn the skills and science of happiness because they listened to one podcast episode I did that one time. No. They're going to learn it by this repeated exposure to it.
Yep. Yeah. And it's the same goes for, and I've got a heap of blog posts all around branding and sort of, discovering your purpose or your brand values. And, you're looking at all these individual things, but if you don't talk about them or you teach them only in a seminar or workshop space, that's the only time that they get discovered. And you're in a closed environment. It doesn't go further than those walls. So it can be, it's definitely worth doing that. Do you think a brand can be emotionally intelligent, or do you think it's the people within the business that are kind of, obviously working in it day to day?
I might answer it this way. Like I think it would be very hard for a brand or an organization to present itself as emotionally intelligent if it doesn't have highly emotionally intelligent people working within it. Right? Like from my perspective, we can sort of manufacture and create brands, but I think the best brands that last and withstand the test of time and make cut through an impact come from some place of authenticity. Yeah. Come from some place of genuine alignment. Right. And so if you have people in your team who are highly, and when we talk about emotional intelligence, let's even break down what that is, right? Being able to be aware of emotions and have emotional literacy and be able to name them. I know something that we've been having conversations about off air is expanding emotional literacy, being able to understand people's emotional states and empathize with them and communicate well with them when they're in that space, and then being able to manage emotions effectively, right? If we don't have leaders and decision makers in workplaces who are highly skilled at that, it'd be very difficult for the brand to do those and present well as that. At least not in a way that's going to last. You know what I mean? Like you could falsify it and project it. Yeah. I think people are pretty discerning these days.
Yeah. I think people can smell bullshit. Yeah. That authentic, original, those sort of terms, they get bandied around, everyone wants to sort of have the, really unique brand at the crux of it, I'm like, having something that people resonate with, that's more important than, trying to be seen to be doing the right things and appearing emotionally intelligent.
Well, and even to that point, having things that people care about and that resonates with people is more important. Then we go one step back and then go, having something that you genuinely care about is most important. Yeah. Like, do you genuinely give a shit about what you're doing? Because if you don't, it's going to be hard to convince other people to give a shit about it.
Oh, massively. I mean, it's probably why a lot of people that have gone into business and they've failed within that first sort of 2 to 3 years, was they've gone, we want to go into business and we're creating this brand. I'm like, you don't just go in straight away and create this brand. That happens over time. It's very much strategic. Yep. And you kind of go in there with intentions to do this thing and do it to the best of your abilities, and you kind of learn and it evolves. I'm sure your business has evolved massively since those early days.
Yeah, and it still will continue to, because I've evolved massively since then. Yeah. Like I've changed. I hope my business continues to change with it. And well, to your point, I think we could I hope we agree on this point. Like from my perspective, when it comes to building a movement, building a business, whatever it may be, personal brand, business brand, marketing funnel, advertising, all this sort of stuff, they're tools in the toolkit. It's having the hammer and the screwdriver and all the equipment that you need to build the house. My goal is to set out to build a really good house. My goal is not to set out to use the hammer really well, right? The hammer is the brand is part of the process to build something that matters.
Have you seen a kind of a link between internal culture and external sort of brand identity?
I've seen what happens when those don't link up well. Like I've seen when there's a disconnect.
Yeah.
Right. When a organization projects as its external sort of outside looking in it. And you know, they might, you know, they do these awards and they get recognized as like an employer of choice, but then none of their staff were actually surveyed in that process. It was just executives filling out the answers that they thought the judges would want to see. And like, you know what I mean? Like they game the system like crazy.
Oh, massively.
And then so people apply for this job based on this brand that's being projected. And within 3 weeks of being internal, they're like, what have I done? This is a terrible mistake. I've been catfished by, you know what I mean? By this workplace. And I just think, you know, the modern recruiting and interviewing process is also kind of just so built on fluff and BS when it's done wrong, right? When, you know, you sit down, you're like, tell us your strengths, and then you yap away for a bit and they're like, what are your weaknesses? And you're like, I work too much and I care too hard, right? Like, or work too hard and care too much, right? Whatever way you want to mix that up. And then you go, tell me about the culture. Like, you know, like everything, we're a family here and like everything's going really well. Like, I don't know. I just think when those don't line up, like, and what I see so much more effectively. So we partner with workplaces to do real data-driven, evidence-informed diagnostics and surveys on their employee experience. So we measure the 5 major contributing factors to workplace happiness, and we survey all of their staff anonymously about it. And we go back to them and say, hey, this is what you're doing really well. These are your gaps. This is what we recommend you do to improve those gaps. Choose from the recommendations what you're actually going to commit to, because don't bullshit people. What are you actually going to commit to? Go back and tell everyone. We've seen organizations start using that in their external brand too, and go, hey, for anyone who's thinking of working here or thinking of partnering with us or thinking of buying from us, we've just done this study on our workplace culture and our employee experience. This is what we're really proud to say that we're doing well, and here's the data to back it up. This is where we've acknowledged that we can do better.
Yeah.
And this is how we're planning on doing better. That transparency and honesty and inviting people on the journey, I find has been so much more valuable for them than only giving the highlights reel.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I over the last 2 to 3 years, I've done more brand audits. So you'd go in, not to the extent that you would, but having interviews with customers or interviews with staff and finding out, you know, what are the gaps? Like nothing. Are you aware of, you know, what the brand's values are? Can you communicate them? How should you be talking about the brand when you're out in public or when a customer comes to you? Or, you know, is the customer, do they get that same impression as what's been sort of led? There's, you know, and for everyone, I'm sure I could take a look at BU Happiness College and recommend some bits and pieces, but like there's always opportunities where you go, oh, okay, that doesn't quite align. It's not to give them a hard time. It's just to try and make improvements, give them the opportunity to sort of see where they could, you know, reap some benefits. If a company is going to go through a rebrand, how do you think leadership could use happiness science to, support the transition to that new brand? So if you were talking to the team, how do you think that could?
Yeah. I mean, look, whether it's a brand transition or any transition, I think understanding a little bit about the psychology of change is really useful, particularly as a bare minimum, knowing that there's some research that suggests at minimum for someone to develop a change in their psychology, their emotional state, their perception, their habits, their behavior, a minimum for us to see it stick is about 12 to 13 weeks of consistent intervention and support and training. Now that's in lab conditions. So that is, we're taking care of that person's entire life. We're not worried about paying the bills and putting food on the table and all the other parenting and all the other responsibilities. We're just focusing on that psychological change.
Yeah, right.
I don't know about you, but for me, my life rarely feels like lab conditions unless it's like some chaotic science lab, right? It doesn't feel ideal, right? Life doesn't always go to plan. It doesn't always feel idealistic or perfect. So this is why when we have people come to the college, I go, hey, look, whether you're here as an individual or you're here as a workplace, if you're genuinely wanting change that sticks, you've got to prepare yourself at minimum 6 months, probably looking more towards 12 months to make it last. Yeah. And I think in an era where we've gotten used to the idea of like quick fixes being sold and like silver bullet strategies and like we want it all done now really fast, and We can get answers at the click of a button on our phone for things.
Yeah.
I think there's something that, I've joked with our team before. I'm like, man, if I was a charlatan and just an absolute like snake oil salesman, we'd probably be a lot bigger than we are now revenue-wise, because I'd just come out and go, do this one magic thing and you'll be infinitely happier.
Yeah.
Instead, our brand message is like, hey, you need to really intentionally work on learning about happiness and practicing happiness for 6 months to a year to get a difference.
That's a hell of a commitment.
Right? It's not sexy. It's not a sexy offer, right?
No.
But it's the truth.
Yeah.
That's what science says. So even when we go to organizations, I don't know, maybe you've ruffled some feathers before saying to workplaces, hey, if you want to bring me in as like a once-off lunch and learn on like mental health month or whatever, or Are You Okay Day?
Yeah.
You can do that once to see if we gel with each other and if your staff like learning from us.
Yeah.
But after that, you've got to commit to something more long-term, because otherwise you're just doing a tick box strategy and I'm becoming the poster boy for Band-Aid fixes in your workplace.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that with my career. I don't want to be the poster
fixes.
boy, right? Like I don't want to do Band-Aid fixes. I want to do stuff that actually works.
Yeah.
And some organizations really, I think, respect that radical candor and that honesty and that, integrity, and others kind of shy away and they go find some other poster child to talk about mental health once a year and say they're doing good things for their staff. But for any change, be it a brand change, be it a personal change, be it whatever change you're doing with your team, you've got to be willing to go, hey, at minimum, this is 3 months in perfect conditions.
Yeah.
Conditions are not going to be perfect. So are we willing to put in the work and effort and consistency for the next 6 months to make this change stick? And if you're not, start asking whether the change is worth it in the first place.
Yeah.
Why are you doing the change if you're not willing to put 6 months into it?
I liken it to the fact that, there's a lot of companies out there in my space who are giving people the opportunity to, get a rebrand or get a brand refresh and, delivered within 6 weeks. And I'm like, it's one of those things that I'd love to be able to deliver that and deliver it, but to a level that I'm like, I wouldn't be delivering it to the level that I'd hope to be able to do.
Yeah,
and
I
that
couldn't
I know
stand
that
by this.
is going to give positive results.
Yeah.
So then you're like, wow, it's good to be able to do all the research and do all the, the front end stuff or the foundational stuff before you then go, okay, well, if we do it like this is exactly the reason why it's going to work. That is going to get you towards the outcome that you want. Mm-hmm. It all makes sense when you kind of speak through it, but it's really shiny to go, I can do you a new brand in 6 weeks. We'll have your website done in 4 weeks after that. I'm like, it's not realistic.
And it might sound blunt, but like sometimes when I do get pushback from either individuals or workplaces who are looking at partnering with us at BU Happiness College, and I'm like, hey, you need to be ready for this to be a 6 to 12 month commitment. And they push back. I turn around and I go, the next 6 to 12 months is going to go by whether you're doing it or not. The fact of the matter is time is going to go. And from my experience, I think a lot of the listeners will probably resonate to this. Each year seems to go a little bit faster than the previous one. I don't think time's slowing down. I think time's speeding up. And I've been warned, obviously got my first child on the way. I've been warned that gets even faster once I've got a kid here. So
you just wait.
Right? So
it'll hit you.
Time is not slowing down. It's going faster. So I'm like, hey, the next 6 to 12 months is going to go by in the blink of an eye. You're either going to spend that time genuinely improving your workplace culture, your team's skills when it comes to effective leadership, when it comes to emotional intelligence, like the skills of happiness in your organization. Or if we're talking individual, you're going to spend that time learning the skills that help you manage your mind and emotions better, or you're not. That's it. Like the time's going to pass either way. So ask yourself, what do I want to be doing in that time?
Makes sense. It absolutely makes sense. In your kind of view, do you think there's a happiness equivalent to brand equity where you're building something up? And if so, how do you, and I know you've spoken about measuring it, but how do you measure that?
I think this is part of what we talk a lot about resilience. I think part of resilience is having kind of emotional equity.
Yeah.
Right. So having this kind of like bounce back room.
Yeah.
When life throws a curveball either for your team or for yourself, it's like, hey, we're demanding a withdrawal now of your emotional resources.
Yeah. Yeah.
And let's be honest here, like your emotional resources could be sadness, anger. It could also be, I don't know if you felt this before. I know a lot of people I talk to, and I feel this too, after big milestone life accomplishments and big highs, that's a demand on emotional resources too. Like after I do a big live event, I'll have a bit of a come down. I'll have a little bit of a crash afterwards energetically.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
something happens in life and goes, we're demanding emotional resources from you.
Yeah.
If you're sitting, sometimes I talk about, imagine having like the little icon in your car that tells you how much fuel you've got left in the tank. And some people go, okay, actually my father-in-law, I remember, would always tell my wife, never let it go below halfway. He was like real on the reserved conservative side. Like when it gets halfway, that's your sign to refill.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, here's me going, oh, it's flashing orange. How long can I last before I fill it up? Like, can I really push the edge on it a bit? To this day, I've never run out of fuel fully, but I think I've got it very close.
Yeah.
So imagine the same thing in your mind emotionally, right?
Okay.
Or in your team, either for yourself or for your workplace, going, hey, if we are sitting on empty and something comes along that demands emotional capacity from us and emotional resources from us, our resilience, our ability to bounce back to change, our ability to adapt well, our ability to do well and make good decisions here, next to nothing. And at that point, I don't care if someone goes to you, hey, it's going to feel a lot better in 3 months' time. I don't have enough to get through 3 months. So I'll be like someone coming to me and going, hey, I know your fuel light's flashing. Good news, the twin servos is 100 Ks up the road. Like, man, I'm not going to make it to the twin servos. I need something now. Right? And so, to answer your question, I think the more people consciously and intentionally work on their happiness skills consistently, they've topped up what's in their emotional reserve, either for themselves or for their team and their organization, so that when life inevitably does throw things that goes, hey, we need something from you right now, you've got it there to give.
I like that. If you were to give me one happiness principle that you think that somebody like me, a brand strategist, brand designer, should understand and apply to their work, what would that be?
Oh, I'm not an expert on your field of work, but I think just the one principle at happiness that I could click my fingers and make every single person in the world, regardless of field of work, just fully embrace something about happiness. It's treat happiness as a skill.
Yeah, okay.
Right? Treat it as a series of skills, which means a couple of things. It means you can learn how to do it better. And most people haven't learned the skills of happiness, right? I admitted recently in another conversation I was having that I went to a friend once and they know my whole thesis about happiness being a skill set and therefore it takes effort. And I said, I wish I could draw as well as you draw. I'm a terrible drawer. They went, well, Declan, when did you last draw and practice drawing? And I said, look, probably when I was 8 years old.
Yeah.
And I went, okay, so you're a man in his 30s who draws like an 8-year-old child.
Yeah.
And I went, yes. And if you saw any of my drawings, you would believe it. And they went, well, why do you expect anything different?
Yeah.
If that's what you last practiced. I went, that's a good point. And so it's the same with happiness skills. If you're like, okay, well, I'm not a very confident person. Okay, when did you last learn about the psychology of confidence and practice it? If you're like, I don't manage my emotions very well. Okay, when did you last learn about that and practice it? For most people, the answer is never. Or like one lunch and learn that happened at work one time. Or maybe they read one self-help book or listened to one podcast. So treating happiness as a skill means A, I can get better at this. B, it means I probably don't need to start from scratch and reinvent the wheel. There's probably people out there who've dedicated their life to studying the skill of happiness. I'm one of them, but there are many others that I've learned from, right? To then go, okay, well, why don't I just pinch their tools and strategies? Like for me, it blows my mind that I can go read a book from someone who spent 40 years studying positive psychology. You're like, oh, that's interesting. Let's pinch that, right? You know what I mean? Let's use that. So, and then C, it gives yourself a bit of compassion and grace to go like any skill, it's going to take time and I'm probably going to stuff it up a lot, right? Like if you're learning a language, you don't expect yourself to be fluent straight away. If you're learning an instrument, you don't expect yourself to hit all the right chords immediately. When it comes to learning the skills of happiness, you're probably going to stuff them up a bit. And that doesn't mean that you're wrong or bad or terrible or, the one I regularly talk to people about is like, it is genuinely valuable for happiness to practice meditation. Yeah. People go, I've tried it. I'm like, how often? Like, once or twice. Well, yeah, so you suck at meditation. If you picked up the guitar and strummed it once or twice, you would suck at guitar, right? You need to stick with it. So if I could snap my fingers and everyone who listens to this conversation or stumbles across it, just one thing, treat happiness like a skill that you're going to suck at for a bit.
Yeah. And
keep going with it because it's well and truly worth it.
Has your drawing got any better since that conversation?
I mean, little bits. I set myself the challenge of trying to draw more regularly off the back of that. And I drew my wife a Mother's Day card. Yeah. And was like, okay, I'm going to learn how to draw our dogs. Yeah. So we've got a Labrador and a Staffy. So I Googled like how to draw a Labrador, how to draw a Staffy. And like sitting there learning. They're currently on the fridge, so they're not bad enough that, she looked at them and laughed and threw them out. So they're still there. But I've definitely got a bit of a way to go.
Drawing is massively a skill. It's actually something for all the work that I do, graphic design, it's still a skill that I have spent so much time just practicing, and I still do, because in my head I'm an awful artist, and it's probably because I'm very literal with what I end up drawing. Like, so, but if you were to say draw you or draw a dog, I'd just be like, I'm gonna simplify it. I'm gonna make it dog shaped, and make sure that it's got all the right features, but the detail is not going to be in there. But yeah, I can see how that would be something to learn about. And so you mentioned, and this is the last question, you mentioned meditation. Are there any other really good practices that people could just slip in, whether it's 5 minutes a day when they're busy routine, could be sat there in the car, when they find that little gap where they go, okay, I'll just sit back and just assess the day? Or
Yeah, I'll give 2 that I think everyone needs to do more of, including myself. Like, I don't think there's an upper limit for these 2. The more you do them, the better. So yes, meditation, we'll have that in there. On top of that, any time that you get to expand your emotional literacy is critically important, because I think a lot of people know about emotional intelligence now. We've been talking about it since the 80s and 90s. It's hard to be intelligent with something that you can't name. And so a lot of people don't have the vocabulary and language to even distinguish between different emotions. And so if we say to people, how are you feeling today? You might get 1 of 5 answers.
Good,
bad, not bad, stressed. My favorite is, busy. Especially in Australia, how are you feeling today? And they're like, oh, and I'm like, no, I don't. That's why I've asked you. And also, is not an emotion. Right? So just expanding your emotional literacy is profoundly impactful for your ability to recognize and healthily work through your emotions. And you can get curious with them. So I recommend people do a tool called a 2-word check-in. Yeah. Which is, if I was to describe how work went today, or how I felt at this event, or how I'm feeling right now, maybe you could do it at the end of this podcast. If I was to describe how I felt in 2 words and 2 words only from listening to this podcast, what 2 words would I use? Yeah, right. The reason we say 2 words and 2 words only, it cuts past all the mind chatter and all the thoughts. We tend to think in sentences, but we feel in single words. Right? So I say, give me 2 words and 2 words only, no more. And people might listen to this, they might go, my hope is that as a result of this conversation, not to put feelings into your body or into your mind, you might go, oh, I felt intrigued or curious or inspired, or maybe you're still feeling furious from the start because you're on the tomato bandwagon.
You mentioned it again.
And you love raw tomatoes, and you're still just boiling away at my hatred of them. I don't care what it is. Whatever it is, you're like, okay, I'm feeling X. Yeah. Right? And then what'll happen is, over a few days, you get bored of putting the same 2 answers down. And so you start going, okay, well, am I feeling frustrated or annoyed? What's the difference between those 2? Am I feeling inspired or energized? What's the difference between those? Right? So emotional literacy is such a critically underdeveloped skill in the vast majority of people. Yeah. The second one, practice gratitude and appreciation a hell of a lot more. Hell of a lot more. Now, whether you want to do it as like a gratitude journal, jot down 3 things that went well that day and why they went well, 3 things you're grateful for and why, or you just want to consciously notice it a bit more and go, this is something I appreciate. Or my favorite one, just say thank you a hell of a lot more. Like, if you're thinking nice things, something I've been practicing lately for myself is, if I think about someone, I text them and I go, hey, just want to let you know, you popped up in my mind today. I'm thinking of you. That's all it is, right? But just showing appreciation and gratitude for the good things that you already have around you and within you is something we could all get a hell of a lot more better at.
Amazing. Is there any sort of, if you want to point people in your direction, obviously that's the main aim for today. How do people get in touch with you? And what do you prefer?
Yeah, I mean, well, first and foremost, if you're someone who loves raw tomatoes, you're not invited to the hang. No, I'm kidding. Everyone's invited to come learn about the skills and science of happiness, even if you like tomatoes. I mentioned earlier that we've just relaunched our podcast, which is called How to Be Happy. So you'll find that everywhere. Cool. And I mentioned earlier that it's tied to one of our United Nations giving goals through B1G1. So everyone who subscribes to that show, we protect a square meter of rainforest. So feel free to think of this as a little bit of emotional blackmail to say, if you don't come and subscribe to our show, not only do you not learn the skills and science of happiness, but a square meter of rainforest will be logged because of it. I'm kidding. But come across, learn about the skills and science of happiness. We'll do good things in the world as a result. Obviously, all the socials, follow us on there. And yeah, we'll include some links to check out some of our free tools. We've got a happiness scorecard and some other resources that people like to use for their own emotional intelligence and self-awareness journey.
Great stuff. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it massively.
No, appreciate it. Thank you.
One of those things that's been probably 2 or 3 years in the making. And we did it.
We got there. We made it happen. Before we wrap up, I'll throw a question to you. 2-word check-in. 2-word check-in on how you're feeling at the end of our conversation.
Enlightened and pumped.
Nice. Yeah. I feel playful and energized. I will say the listeners can't see this. This is the first podcast interview I've ever done where we're standing.
Yeah.
I think I'm a convert. I love this.
But the first one I ever did, went to the person in the studio. They were like, so like, how do you feel with standing? I'm like, yeah, okay. Like I've got but it kind of just frees you up.
At first I thought I was doing a spelling bee, but then I really lent into it. I'm like, this is fun. Like I love this.
But it opens your body up as well. And so you can breathe instead of being cramped down in a little chair, you go, oh, okay. And then you kind of, fully experience it.
Yeah.
And you can kind of have a bit of a, I don't know, it changes things. Yeah. Sat down ones are kind of like, yeah.
I think I've been more chaotic and unhinged on this podcast than anyone I've been on before. So hopefully through the chaos and the unhingedness, some people who've listened have also got some gems of wisdom about happiness.
Yeah, and tomatoes.
And tomatoes.
Cheers, mate.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.